What's up, Taiwan? I'm Eric Gao. Thanks for joining us for the news this afternoon. Former Taipei Mayor Wenje has been released without bail after 2 days in custody, accused of corruption. The party he founded, the Taiwan People's Party, and his supporters, they are cheering the court's decision that the evidence was not enough to hold him any longer. Now, our reporter Tiffany Wong joins us live from Taipei with the latest on this case. Tiffany, does it look like Ke is in the clear now?
Hi, Eric. Well, it looks like Ke won't be able to relax just yet. The Taipei prosecutors have said that they are planning on seeking an appeal to that decision to let him go without bail. Now, he was released around 3 a.m. last night after 2 days of questioning. Ke is a popular figure who is led the Taiwan People's Party until now. He's on a temporary break from that position. But now this scandal, this corruption allegations concerning profiteering during his time as Taipei City Mayor have put both him and his party under public scrutiny. But still, a lot of his followers came out last night outside waiting for him to come out, as we can see in this report from our reporter John Van Trieste.
A crowd erupts into cheers as former Taipei Mayor Wen-je walks free. It's the second night of a vigil his supporters have kept up outside the Taipei prosecutor's office, where Ke's been held on corruption charges. At past 3 in the morning, the court ruled that there's not enough evidence to have Ke formally detained and ordered his release without the need for bail. Ke's tearful wife is on the scene, accompanied by members of the Taiwan People's Party, which Ke founded and stood for as presidential candidate this year. They've attacked the investigation for going beyond its remit, looking into whether then Mayor Ke was part of a quid pro quo deal to help a shopping mall expand its floor space. They say inspectors took evidence and asked questions that had nothing to do with the case, hoping to find any dirt they could pin on him. It's a line of criticism Ke agrees with.
无法理解他的目的是什么。那么他们在搜索以后查扣手机跟用品，再拿里面的资料去编故事，在这2天当中，可以说是极尽压迫跟凌虐。
He also tells supporters his version of the story.
所有的精华城840的容积率，840% 容积率，其实当年在送公开展览以后，再转送都委会，就都市计划委员会以后，我完全没有去过问，因为作为市长不应当去过问单一个案。
Though the court agrees there's not enough evidence to tie Ke to the case, for now, he's far from off the hook. His deputy mayor, Peng Zhongshang, has been formally detained as a major suspect. And this is just one of 3 scandals that's recently damaged Ke's public image and given his party a battering in the polls. It's just the end of the first chapter of what looks to be a long legal battle. Andy Xue and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Now, Ke has only been released for a few hours, but it looks like he won't be able to rest for long. He and his party are going to try hard to rebuild that trust with his supporters and maintain his innocence as they await the court's next decision.
Thank you for that update, Tiffany. That was our reporter Tiffany Wong live in Taipei. Stay tuned to TaiwanPlus as we follow this case in the coming days. Allies of Keelung Mayor George Xie, including former Taipei Mayor Hao Longbing, rallied this weekend, a month ahead of a looming recall vote.
10月13号要面临这一场选举的投票，所以再一次的要请我们的好市长来帮国良加持。
Residents gathered the signatures needed for a recall petition after the city council accused Xie of abusing power in a shopping mall real estate transaction. The Central Election Commission set the recall vote for October 13th. If at least 25% of eligible Keelung residents vote in favor of the recall and more vote in favor than against, Xie will be removed from office. Residents also say Xie's administration is falling short on election promises and budget management.
国良真的从来没有在乎过市民的需求是什么。市民需要的并不是一台会抛锚的机车，更不是随意铺设的人工草坪。
Pope Francis is starting the longest and farthest trip of his career. touring 4 countries in Asia over 12 days. Ahead of his departure, the Pope asked the faithful to pray.
Domani inizierò un viaggio apostolico in alcuni paesi di Asia. Per favore, pregate per il frutto di questo viaggio.
The Vatican is hoping to spread messages of peace and unity. Pope Francis will begin his trip in Indonesia, where he is expected to hold a mass for about 60,000 people at a Jakarta stadium. The Pope is set to appear at over 40 events on this trip, which will also take him to Papua New Guinea, East Timor, and Singapore. Massive protests have erupted across Israel after the IDF recovered the bodies of 6 Israeli hostages killed in Gaza. Demonstrators are criticizing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his government for their inability to bring hostages who were abducted last October home, and they are demanding a ceasefire deal to end the war in Gaza. Rosie Greninger reports.
Crowds gather outside Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office in Jerusalem as anger mounts against his government for failing to secure a hostage release deal with Hamas. Massive protests erupted across the country after 6 hostages who've been held by the Palestinian militant group since October 7th were found dead by Israeli forces in a Gaza tunnel.
You can't play with civilians' lives. You cannot do that. And we demand the deal to be right now. That's why we're marching for, that's what we're shouting for. There are many families, members of the hostages here saying words against the government and calling, just bring them home.
A candlelight vigil was held in Jerusalem for the 6 slain hostages, including Israeli-American Hirsch Goldberg-Polin. Israel says the hostages were killed by Hamas militants shortly before its soldiers arrived in the tunnel in southern Gaza. But Hamas claimed the hostages had been killed by Israel's ongoing bombing of the Gaza Strip. Speaking on the deaths of the 6 hostages, Netanyahu insisted his government is conducting intense negotiations to reach a ceasefire deal, blaming Hamas for the delay.
המאמצים שלנו לשחרר את חטופינו נמשכים כל העת. מאז חודש דצמבר, חמאס מסרב לנהל משא ומתן אמיתי. לפני 3 חודשים, ב-27 במאי, ישראל הסכימה לעסקת שחרור חטופים בגיבוי מלא של ארצות הברית. החמאס סירב.
But there are those who say it's Netanyahu's hardline stance calling for the complete destruction of Hamas that has delayed a deal being secured after 11 months of negotiations. It's prompted a large-scale strike across Israel, organised by the country's powerful labour union. Opposition leader Yair Lapid called for civilian workers to shut down the economy to pressure the government to accept a deal to bring the remaining hostages home. That strike closing the country's largest airport and set to impact other transportation, healthcare and banking. The bodies of a dozen hostages have been repatriated to Israel in the past week. At least 100 still remain in Gaza. The Israeli military believes at least 1/3 of that number are no longer alive.
Today, I urge my government and all the states of the world to make a deal, make it possible, make it happen. It's too late for us, it's too late for Carmel. I will never hug her again. But 101 people can still hug their families. For them, make the deal, save lives.
That deal would also save lives in Gaza, where more than 40,000 Palestinian civilians have been killed and over 95,000 injured during Israel's continuing offensive in the Gaza Strip. As outrage against the government spreads in Israel, protesters here say they feel it is a turning point to put an end to the war in Gaza. Dolphine Chen and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
Vietnam has emerged as a key destination for global manufacturing, as many countries, including Taiwan, shift production away from China amid a tense trade war between Washington and Beijing. Taiwan has long done business in the Southeast Asian country, but as Vietnam pushes to become more high-tech, Taiwanese factories there are working to keep pace. Joyce Sun reports from Ho Chi Minh City.
Taiwanese businessman Chen Yan-chen has been making ceramic pigments at this factory in southern Vietnam for 20 years, producing as much as 400 tons of colors a month for tiles. Chen was part of a wave of Taiwanese manufacturers who came to Vietnam in the early 2000s. Land and labor were cheap, and from here they could tap into new overseas markets previously inaccessible from Taiwan.
越南呢是属于这个比较年轻还正在发展的一个国家。主要越南最大我们一个趋势是我们外销市场可以面对整个东南亚。
Once among the world's poorest countries, Vietnam has emerged as one of the region's leading economies. Its strategic location, large workforce, and infrastructure to support export have helped the country become a hub for manufacturing, a sector which makes up about a quarter of its GDP. Vietnam has also benefited from a global production shift away from China amid Beijing's crackdowns on foreign firms. Taiwan has been a strong contributor to this growth, becoming Vietnam's fourth largest investor.
Taiwanese investment here in Vietnam has quadrupled in the last few years. And Ho Chi Minh City, once a land filled with swamps, forests, and empty patches of flat areas like the one behind me, has now transformed into a bustling metropolis. The city and the country's capital, Hanoi, are both among the top fastest growing cities in the world. In fact, Vietnam is expected to lead Southeast Asia as the region's economic growth is projected to outpace that of China's in the next decade.
Taiwanese store owner Xu Yuling has long been optimistic about Vietnam. A longtime investor here, he believes Taiwan's status as a leading maker of cutting-edge chips has now made it a desirable partner for the region.
东南亚国家事实上对台湾的看法已经一个非常大的不同了。他们要去台湾，他们以前没有那么积极啊，可是今年都非常的积极，就是认为说，有没有可能半导体来越南设厂？有没有 AI？ 我们怎么样可以跟台湾合作？
To attract the desired tech players, Vietnam is also working to upgrade its manufacturing sector overall, and the Taiwanese factories already here are trying to keep up. Businessman Shi Bo-chang has brought in tech solutions to increase the efficiency of his screws and bolts factory. He's the main supplier of motorbike screws to auto giants Honda and Yamaha in Vietnam. And given motorcycle ownership in the country is among the highest in the world, he's holding on to his place in the market and vying to stay competitive.
一个愿景是蛮重要的，就是说你今天打算要这个公司要到哪里去，要达到什么样的一个地方啊？你说整个转型，事实上说实在，你要找到一个可以做的这个市场跟产品，事实上它不是那么简单啊。
Vietnam is moving quickly to push a digital transformation, forcing captains of industry to keep pace with its ambitious goals to lead the region in an advancing high-tech era. Eason Chen, Allison Wien, and Joyce Zhen in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam for TaiwanPlus.
Tune in to TaiwanPlus tomorrow for part 2 of this report, looking at how factories in Vietnam are going digital. And thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. I'm Eric Gao. Take care, and we'll see you next time.